Welcome, everyone. This is the 32nd round of VVV's The Losers Bracket. And boy, do we have a packed show. I am proud on this show to announce the return of VVV Perilous as our host, as we are going to say a fond farewell to Rapture, who is going to be moving on to bigger and better things, as he is going to have his own podcast show. And with that being said, let's start the Losers Bracket.
I'm back.
Can't stop the train, baby. Woo!
Let's start with you. Before we start our MLG wrap-up, congratulations on getting your own podcast show. I hear it's going to be called Directional Influence, and it's going to cover the Smash community and Smash as a whole on VVV's new podcast site. Talk to us, Rapture.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm leaving, so no more Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and stuff. But I'll be around. I am hosting Directional Influence, the newest and probably the best ever, because I'm on the show, obviously, Smash Bros. Podcast ever. Along with me will be Will, a.k.a. Broccoli Kong. He's a DK main from Long Island. And Punishment Divine, a.k.a. Matt, who also plays as Marth and Wario. And we're going to be talking about, tons of stuff about Smash Bros. We're going to be interviewing tons of players, tournament organizers, and Brawl Backroom members, as well as covering topics in Melee and Super Smash Bros. 64 and anything that comes out after that. So please hit that up. I will be there all the time. Every week we'll be ending up a new episode. And then I'll probably show up here once in a while because I got to make the show good, and that's what I do. So that's what I'm up to. So unfortunately I got to leave, but I'm not going anywhere technically.
No, sir. You are still in VV Gaming, still one of our writers, and we're excited to give you the opportunity to host your own show. I had the pleasure of meeting Matt tonight, and I saw Will at MLG Raleigh, so I think you're a very competent and dedicated host, so I think it's going to be a great show. So I guess from all of us to you, Rapture, this is a fond farewell. Oh.
Bye.
Good riddance.
Shut up. Smack you right now.
So the show will get better now that he's gone.
Yeah.
Is he still here?
I guess.
Holy shit.
I thought we kicked him out already.
Holy
Perilous,
shit.
you know what? I took your spot, so I have a confession to make, and this is mind blown right now.
I'm going to be honest with you. At 16, I still think you're too young to declare your sexuality. You should wait at least 16 before you say anything, to be honest.
No, shut up. I'm 17. Stop call me 16.
Okay.
Okay. So, when you guys told me I was supposed to talk about that MMO thing about the sex and stuff, that's how I got on the show originally. I just wanted to be on the show really bad, so I actually just Googled that and read up about it for about 2 hours, so I knew what I was talking about.
Holy shit. Wait,
I've never lied? Well, I never played the game ever. I just heard that you guys wanted people for the show, so I read up and looked about it, and I was like, hey, I could do that, so I went on the show.
After watching 2 seasons of Ultimate Gamer, I can guarantee you a lot of people in this word bullshit. There's a lot of bullshitters. So you know what? It's nice that you confessed it. You've told us that, hey, I got on the show and I use Google. And that's why I always say Google it. I think we should start our MLG Raleigh coverage with the one group that had an increase in attendance at this event, and that is the Tekken 6 community. So we have with us Juan. Everybody knows him as Main Event. Zabarini, welcome, Juan. How you doing?
What's up? How you guys doing today?
Good, great. Good to see you. A packed show, and we're glad you could make time to come on. So I got to watch. No, I won't even say it like that because that's not true. I was drawn into the Tekken finals because it was exciting. And it looks like you guys had a much larger turnout than you had at the previous events. I'm guessing location probably played a part in that?
Yeah, location definitely had probably the biggest factor there. Right in the middle of the Carolinas, it's I mean, it's just good enough for everybody around the Northeast and a little bit of the South to kind of come together, and even Midwest was there. So it was definitely a better location than Orlando and the Columbus showing. So I mean, hopefully it builds from there. And DC should be just as packed because it's just about the same guys going to be going there too. So DC's probably and on top of all the hype that has been talked about on the forum, so it's probably going to be a bigger one than DC too.
What would you say was the biggest surprise this event? And I don't want to talk about the finals, but prior to the finals, what would you say was some of the big surprises that we had in Tekken 6?
There was a few upsets in there. NYC Fab lost on the first day. I did my usual losing on the first day. God, I hate Friday nights. I don't understand why they do that crap on Friday nights, but I can't stand traveling and going there and having to play a damn video game at 7 o'clock at night for no damn reason when they could just do the events in 2 days. But that's neither here nor there. The surprise of the whole thing was the first day that there was only one New York City player that was still in winners at the end of the day, and it was like 7 of us, which was crazy. But Fab ran into a problem with one of the stations. They ended up seeing that later in the tournament, they ended up seeing that the station actually had lag on it. They had it on the wrong setting. So he wasn't even supposed to really lose. He was playing on a messed up station. So that was pretty messed up. So what happened was they ended up not having that station being played for most of the second day without really even checking the settings on it. They just left it alone. They just had nobody play on it. And I saw one of the matches. GM was on before the finals and all that. It was like just a match he was having, and he had dropped a combo 2 times straight. And I was like, this is stupid because I've seen the kid do it a lot of times in a row. And I was like, listen, you guys are going to have to check the settings on these PS3s because there was a lot of complaints about lag, more than any other event I've been to. And a lot of the same people were there. And those were the people that were complaining about the lag and the monitors and stuff. So. But they ended up checking it. I mean, it took them to the next day, but they ended up checking it. And there was only one station, and it happened to be the one that Fab was on that was put on 1050, and it should have been on 720p. So, I mean, that was pretty messed up.
Whoops. So why don't you set the stage for us with the finals?
The finals was a matchup between SoCal, Southern California, and New York. The Southern California player was Just Frame James. He plays a character I play. He plays Law. And he ended up in the finals against Fighting GM from the Bronx, who was also one of my two training partners. So GM was very familiar with the matchup. Unfortunately for him, he hadn't been playing for about 3 weeks on and off. So it wasn't the typical GM that I'm used to seeing. Before we went to the side and we had him talk about it because he ended up playing James in the winners finals, I think it was, and he lost them 3-2. So we went to the side and kind of talked about the matchup over again and, kind of tried to get it straight. James, I believe, took the first 2 games. He was up. GM had to win a certain amount of game. He had to win 4, and James only had to win 3 because it's a continuation of the rule. If you win 3-2, then, they carry on if you meet again in the grand finals, which I didn't think was going to be a big deal, but it ended up being like the biggest deal because he ended up winning by 1 game and, in the final round. So it ended up costing GM in the end. Exciting final. It was so much hype. I mean, if you look at, there's a video on YouTube already about the last game, and it pans around to the crowd, and I swear to God, it looks like the whole room is filled. Like the whole room is filled, just people looking. We even had the Halo guys looking. There's people from the Smash looking. It was crazy. It was like the biggest thing it looked like literally like the Evo finals for Street Fighter 4. Like that's how big it looked. I didn't even notice it because I was right in the front of the stage, shouting out kind of instructions to GM at the same time. So I had no idea until I saw that video that was that many people. It was crazy.
It definitely seemed like Tekken drew a lot more spectators to watch it because it seemed so much more interesting, this event, than all of the others. And it might have been the trash talk between, New York, ATL. The final match was definitely phenomenal to watch. It was awesome. But there was a lot more comebacks than just, straight out slaughters, which was probably really helped the spectators come watch.
Yeah, and there was a lot more. There was no Korean players at this one, so it was back to being like the rivalries within the U.S. kind of taking over. You know what I mean? It was before the last 2 events was like, all right, we kind of put our differences to the side, so just to make sure that America does well. But now it was all bets were off. I still don't like you, so now we're gonna do this here now. It was kind of like that again. So it was kind of cool to get back to how I kind of grew to enjoying the competitive structure. So
after Columbus, you had come on and said that there was going to be all the pros were planning on this strike or some sort of incident had occurred and you guys weren't going to play at Raleigh. What ended up changing between Columbus and Raleigh to end up having all the pros play?
Most of the pro players, there was 4 of them that are Korean. They actually didn't show up because they had their Tekken Crash season and their SBO qualifiers. They were out to begin with. GM initially had a problem. He was dropped from EG because they wanted him not to sign the MLG contract, and he decided to, so they had to drop him. Everybody else is, just complexity, I guess, bended on their rules or whatever, and they just let Crow and Naps, sign and allow them to play. Other than that, everybody else didn't really have any kind of sponsored companies behind them, so they just, went ahead and signed it. So, it basically, the Koreans not showing up, I'm not sure what would have happened there, to tell you the truth, if they would have been able to play without signing a contract, or what happened there, but it ended up not really costing them because they were going to show up anyway, so it didn't really matter. But it affected GM the most because he got dropped from that, from EG for having to sign that contract, and he had to because there was what else is he going to play? What else is there for a Tekken player to go play besides MLG? You know what I mean? He's going to go to random locals and be like, hey, look at me, I'm from EG, and meanwhile he's at a 25-man local. Who gives a shit? He has to play MLG. But he was the only real person that was affected by it, to tell you the truth. Everybody else is business as usual.
And that business looked pretty good from where I was standing, to be honest. I thought it was exciting to see Tekken.
It was not only the singles was hype, dude. The next day, even on Sunday, it was Sunday that was even hype too. It was crazy. The whole weekend just seemed like it just went to another level. And like I said, to me, it was not just the amount of players that was there. It was more like just back to the rivalries, New York, California, New York, Texas, New York, Atlanta, especially. Oh my God. And I had a lot to do with that. I had a lot to say because it always seemed like nobody else would really step up and say something back to these guys. So I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I don't care. Ended up blowing up in my face a couple times, but I didn't care. Whatever. It was probably the most fun I've had in a while. It was good times, definitely.
And no one doubts, Juan, that you are not afraid to speak. Never have to worry about that.
Yeah, it was good because it's about time. Somebody had to say something, dude. It was great.
You saw that opportunity, didn't you?
I was like, you know what? If I had a shitty, a shitty singles, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something to kind of have some fun. So I give them some crap, because it was the first time that these guys, and most people know this that are in the community. These guys don't travel outside their own zip code, for God's sakes, and they did it. They finally came out and they were on neutral ground. They didn't have, they had 11 people or whatever with them. But if you go to final round in Atlanta, it's a totally different experience. It's like, 200 dudes screaming in the background. God forbid you're in the finals. It's a crazy atmosphere. If you guys thought that was hype, you'd hear stories about final round in Atlanta or KIT in Tennessee. And it's ridiculous. It's almost borderline over the top. Sometimes it gets to be ridiculous how the taunting and the insults and the noises. There was one year that they started the tournament. They started flicking the lights on and off, and saying "Welcome to the jungle." Like, it was crazy. It was just like a ridiculous amount of stuff going on. And finally, they actually came out and and they proved it. They proved that they're decent players. They backed up finally what they said.
Juan, I really appreciate you giving us players' perspective on anything going on in Tekken 6. I assume we're going to see you next in DC. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Thank you so much for being on our show again, and we'll probably talk to you again sometime right before DC to get a preview. Sound good?
That sounds like a plan.
I'm really proud to announce our next guest, who is Chris. All of you know him as HuK, Laurent, who hails from Ontario. He is the winner of StarCraft 2 event that just happened at Major League Gaming's event in Raleigh, sort of the first big major North American LAN. And you're the winner. Welcome to our show, Chris.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I really want to first congratulate you. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
I think now this puts you in the limelight. So if you don't mind, give everybody that may not be familiar sort of your background in StarCraft and talk about your LAN experience as well.
Well, I was a longtime SC1 player. I wasn't as successful as some of the other guys like Tyler or, LZ Gamer or Machine or, most of those guys. But I played that for like 10 years. And then when I heard StarCraft 2 beta was coming out, I started playing that. And I've had a pretty good run since phase 1 of online tournaments and such. And since then, most recently, I went to Cologne, Germany to participate in the ESL. That was my first ever LAN event, really. And I kind of sucked, to be honest. And then a week later, I went to MLG and obviously competed and won that. And then I got back, 2 days ago in Canada? I guess I'm 1-1 for LAN events, which isn't that bad considering I've only played 2.
I know that's not a bad start, especially in a game as competitive as StarCraft. Let's talk a little bit about the differences between Cologne, Germany, and this event. What do you think helped your performance this time around? Why don't we talk about each one individually? First, give us a brief overview about some of the challenges you had in Germany, and then how maybe you overcame or they didn't present themselves here when you were in Raleigh.
ESL, like I said, was my first LAN, so I just forgot every important thing. I didn't really remember what my settings were at home. Mouse speed, turning off mouse precision and control panel, in-game mouse speed, drag speed. I forgot my mouse pad at the hotel, didn't bring a pillow, so that height, seat difference between home and there was really different, so it made it feel really uncomfortable. I don't know, just a bunch of little things that, a noob first-time LANer wouldn't know, and then it kind of messes you up. And then at MLG, obviously, after failing so hard at ESL, I remembered all of that, and I was really solid. Besides being extremely tired the first day, everything went really well, and I felt really comfortable, too. So
let's talk about your first match. Tell everyone who it was against and how you felt your very first match went in Raleigh.
First match, I don't even remember what the guy's ID was. I remember he was Zerg, and he was a 800, 900 diamond player. I'm sorry if he listens to this. He's you can remember me, and I was yeah. But it went okay. He told me he was bronze at first, and I was really happy because, you just want to get the first round over and just, get into your group, warm up and all that. And then he ended up being 800, 900 diamond, and I was a little bit more worried, but obviously I didn't recognize his name, so I wasn't too worried. And the games went pretty smoothly. He seemed really, I don't want to say scared, but scared. He, was playing really passively, just kind of sat in his base most of the game, just waiting to die, basically. I think the second game I actually mothership rushed him. I don't know when the replays.
Just so you know, you did.
Yeah,
You did.
Yeah. Well, that happened, and I was just glad to get past that and kind of get into a zone of wearing a hoodie and the pillow and just feel feeling comfortable.
Some people have seen the videos of your mothership rushes on YouTube, and I have to admit, the first time I saw one of those with the shoutcasters going crazy in the background, I loved it. Everyone loves it. It's one of those strategies that's really out there, kind of crazy. You have some of those really out there wacky strategies. How do you come up with this stuff? And is there anything that you have got maybe on the back burner that you really want to try that you haven't been able to yet? Kind of give us a little bit of insight into your strategies that you come up with in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just when I'm away from the game, traveling or hanging out with friends, you're just kind of sitting at dinner or whatever, and there's a lull in the conversation. My mind immediately starts I don't know, it's the personality of me, I guess. I just start thinking about StarCraft 2 or other stuff, and sometimes I think of cute little things I can do. I still want to do some really good Ford Ray, Warp Prism play, and then Sentry out their army and then just destroy their main, or really weird DT placements or call-ins and stuff like that. The very first Mothership Rush I did that became popular was against Pinder, and it was a Desert Oasis game, and I really didn't plan to do it, but I went 3-0, and then, it was the fourth game, and I was just all right, what the hell, and I just did it. And I always hear commentators that are oh man, look at that timing, he's got 100 energy, and, the fleet beacon just ended, and he's got 400, he must have practiced this timing, and most of the time I really don't. I just kind of do it, and it happens, and I'm oh, well, I'm glad it worked, I guess.
If there was one player that you did not face in Raleigh, and you're glad you did not face, would you be willing to share who that is and why?
That actually was there, or who was supposed to show up?
I'll take either one. I think that's fair.
I would say probably Drewby. I would say Drewby. I go pretty even against Drewby. After Mothership rushing him, I lost that one series 2-1, and that kind of made me angry. I don't know. I feel like I could beat him, but I think I would have the highest chance to lose against him out of all the people that were there besides the people I played. And then if it was people that didn't show up, there's only a few that didn't show up, but I think I would have been scared of Sheth as well. Although I think he's really bad at lands or something, as far as I hear. So Drewby and Sheth kind of sort of, I guess.
To be honest, from a spectator's sort of, from my viewpoint, it would have been difficult to pick if there was one match, to be honest, that you felt you really struggled, but you may probably have a different perspective. Because sometimes you do come up with some very creative solutions on the fly, and that gathers a lot of applause. Can you give us probably one of the more tense moments you had in Raleigh where one of those creative solutions came up and what you were thinking and how you felt about it?
Probably, I'd say tense things where I kind of came up with something creative. I would say my match against Kiwi where I go Phoenixes. But one of the most tense would be any of the like PvPs I played where it was like kind of close. And I go down in the series like 0-1 or against Coffin Lock where Storm finished just in time as his push came. Things like that you get tense about because, you know, I had like an observer at Coffin's base and then I saw him pushing out and I have Storm teched and I'm constantly chrono boosting it, but I'm not really sure if it's going to come in time. And then, you know, it just makes it. I would say the biggest moment would be my Phoenix against Kiwi just because I felt really far behind and I just lost the game against him and he was going to go up in the series 3-2 if I didn't win that game. And he had like a lot of momentum going into the game, and he kind of messed me up with the gas steal, and it was really awkward. And luckily, the Phoenixes came through, and I had some decent micro with force fields. And then
I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that, to be honest. I mean, because it was one of those things that it was a tough situation, and I remember the applause you got as everybody sort of was like, oh, "This is going to work." You know? So, like, this is what I think is going to really help StarCraft 2. Get a lot more attention as a lot more people are playing, a lot more people are going to know about it as more people translate what's going on and say, this is why this is amazing. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
I agree. Like those moments that were kind of like unusual play or really good micros, something like that. Those wow moments are what made SC1 what's going to make SC2 too.
Yeah, I'll tell you from my personal experience, because I was sitting at home watching the stream. I wasn't lucky enough to be able to be in Raleigh this past weekend. But you could hear the applause from the crowd over the stream when you pulled off that Phoenix play in the finals against Kiwi. So really good thinking on the fly, man. That was really good. And I think that personally, this is my opinion from what I've seen, at least on the highest level of play, the Phoenix seems to be way underutilized for the power that it has. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Especially mid-game. I mean, people aren't really using mid-game units at full potential like Phoenixes or DTs as these really mobile, fast units that can do a lot of things and fill a lot of roles. Like a Phoenix can, you know, run around to their mineral line, easily snipe workers and, you know, do that kind of role. They can scout, which is because they're so fast. They can work in like, you know, a big battle too. They're not just, you know, some random unit. As long as you're lifting off a tank, you're paying off that Phoenix in the battle basically because you're taking out a tank for 150, 100, and your Phoenix costs 150, 100. So there's definitely a lot of things in this game still being discovered and things that are underused. I mean, from me personally, you know, Noni introduced me to the Phoenix play, so I want to just give him props real quick for that.
For the people that might not know that much about StarCraft, or even for the players that aren't at a professional level, how do you go about preparing for a tournament? How do you plan to prepare for DC?
Well, for LAN, it's a lot different than a tournament at home. Just make sure, like the things I said, just consider everything that could go wrong at a LAN will go wrong and make sure you're prepared. I mean, make sure everything at home you can make as much as you can the same at the LAN, basically. I mean, obviously things are going to be different, but try to focus and prepare. I mean, before ESL, my roommates used to come in and like watch me and stuff, and I would lose a match and be like, just flipping out. I'd throw stuff and be like, get the blank out and all this other crap. And now
you can curse all you want.
Well, now I'm like, you know, feel free to come in and watch me and, you know, make noise if you want, talk normally, because you got to kind of get used to that situation, because if you're going to be playing at LAN, there's going to be a lot of that going on. I mean, distractions, people talking, stage, you know, at ESL the stage, when like a freaking mouse could walk behind you and it feel like an earthquake. So all those little things add up. As far as online tournament, just, you know, practice and play, make sure consciously to try to improve your play, not just, you know, run through games, you lose a game, you don't think about it and you just keep going. Make sure you work on your mistakes and you have practice partners that are going to give you feedback on what you're doing wrong.
Now, as a spectator, we see all these players like mass switch, like choose workers and then like switch back from their base and workers, and like they keep like clicking it. What is the actual reasoning for that?
You're basically getting your hands and your mind warmed up, so when you have to do that later in the game, you're not kind of stuttering for like your hands and your mind. Just, mid-game or late game, you're going to have 3,000 things going at once. The guy's going to be dropping in your base. There's going to be a battle at your expo, and then you're going to have a positioning war in the middle of the map. And you got to be able to do all that, plus macro your base and scout around and do basically a bunch of things at once. And if you're just kind of, super relaxed, just kind of clicking here and there at the beginning of the game, you're not going to be as ready if, you're all kind of jittered up. Like, for me, it's not hard because just naturally that's the way I am. I'm like hyper and, kind of twitchy, RTS, not pretty small guy, and that's just the way I am. So it's easy for me to get into that mindset and do it. But for some other people, I could see where they're having issues. But yeah, that's the reason why.
HuK, let's talk a little bit about what you have upcoming next. As Justin mentioned before, we're going to obviously see you at the next MLG event in DC. What other events do you have lined up that you have decided 100% you will be attending?
Well, nothing besides DC, really. I mean, I have ESL IEM qualifiers for New York coming up. I think the group stages are this weekend, and if I make it out of my group, I think it starts like October 10th or something, and it's like sharing with Comic-Con or some event like that. For me, that would be my next event, and then like a day after DC starts, so that would be a really hectic time for me. But as far as lands as the first two foreseeables, I think the next GSL I will be attending. I'm like 90% sure on that. Other than that, I mean, online events, there's a ton. I got like GoSu Cup starting this weekend, I think. I think ESL monthly finals, if I qualified for that. HDH2 is going to be coming up sometime. I don't know. There's like a ton of online events, but yeah, those are the next two lands for me.
I think anybody who follows competitive gaming knows that, the top StarCraft culture, if not the players themselves, obviously hail from South Korea. If you had the opportunity, have you ever thought about either boot camping for a while or actually moving to South Korea to play?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a definite possibility, and it could be happening within the foreseeable future, and I am more than willing to. I mean, I want to be the best, so that's where the best plays. That's where the biggest tournaments are. I would still like to compete in North American and European tournaments as well, but making that step into the Korean team and showing them what white people can do would be nice too.
Well, I think we have a lot of people here in North America, 300 million just in the U.S. alone, plus Canada. And it seems that we've always kind of lagged behind, probably for many reasons. But a lot of people are optimistic that StarCraft 2, players such as yourself, could definitely go toe-to-toe with other top players. I think you've done a good job of getting everyone's attention with your win. As somebody who's been in the StarCraft community for a long time, who are some of the people that you've looked up to, and now that you're in this position, say, wow, I really would like to follow in the footsteps of these people? As
foreigner gamers or Korean pro gamers or what?
All of the above, whatever you personally say, and I'd love to know why. Like, what are, internationally, what are some of the players, it doesn't matter where they're from, that you sort of look up to, and why?
Mostly the foreigners, they'd be like Gur, aka Guillaume, who I actually think just started playing StarCraft 2 again, who's French-Canadian, and he was like a really strong SC1 player back in the day. People like Rhett, people like Noni, people like Idra, even though I hate to say it, they've all been there, done that as foreigners. As far as Korean pro gamers, I think my favorite of all time forever is going to be Boxer, aka Lim Yo-han, but pretty much any pro gamer I liked BC's play. That's actually one of the main reasons why I played Protoss and StarCraft 2. I don't know. I mean, there's pretty much any pro gamer and almost all top foreigners from the foreign scene.
I don't know if you were paying close attention, but when the Korean StarCraft scandal sort of with the betting erupted, were you following it at all, and did you have any thoughts about it when you saw it?
Yeah, I was following it a little bit. I mean, it was very disappointing, but like everything else in life, if there's, if it's popular enough people watch it, sooner or later there's going to be betting on it. And when there's betting on it, there's going to be scandals. So it was disappointing, but I'm pretty sure anything that gets any big and is bet on it, in any way, sooner or later there's going to be some kind of scandal, just like any sport.
I think that's a wise approach. Might also be sort of a reaffirmation that that's how large it is, that it is big enough and important enough to get, somewhat of a significant betting scandal going. Final question that I have for you, Chris, before we let you go, because we know you're busy. If you think about the things that inspired you as a StarCraft 2 player, thinking about starting out and getting involved in the scene, what would be some beginning advice to StarCraft players? Because, a lot of players will go on a journey to attempt to improve their game and be at the top. And if they don't make it, hopefully they will be passionate fans who may choose you as the person that they love to follow. What advice do you have to those players who may have played StarCraft maybe even 5 years ago and are now coming back? What's a good place to start, do you think, for them?
First of all, enjoy the game. I mean, you're never going to be able to make it and improve your play at all if you're not enjoying the game. So if you find yourself losing and not enjoying playing still, that's when you need to kind of take a break and maybe, go do other things in life or hang out with your friends and stuff, because whenever you don't enjoy the game is when you get in the worst ruts and you start to hate it. Just make sure you enjoy the game first and foremost. And then after that, it's always good to have, friends, whether they be real life or just internet friends or whatever, that you can, observe games with, talk strategy, kind of hang out, talk about top players, watch replays, all that great stuff. The community aspect of StarCraft 2 is really what makes it, in my opinion.
Well, HuK, I want to thank you so much for being on our show. Everybody at VV Gaming has been watching you, and you're going to keep watching you, and we all want to wish you the best for the future.
Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure.
This past weekend, WCG Pan-American Games just were played in Brazil, and with us we've got VVV Michs coming back to tell us about the experience of being in Brazil, how the tournament went. I heard that you placed top 3, my friend, so I want to say congratulations. How was it over there? And give us a rundown of your tournament.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show again. Yeah, I just got back from Brazil actually today. It was a really nice tournament. They always have a good bracket set up, usually with anything that includes WCG. And coming top 3 was definitely my goal, so it's good, having a good performance before heading to the national.
Well, it is great to have you back on the show. And I was going to ask, I know you went to Brazil testing out a new formation. I don't want to necessarily reveal that formation, but third place is definitely not at all bad. I'm assuming things went well. And how do you feel you're going to prepare for the nationals?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result, to be honest. I mean, for all the people that don't really know the FIFA scene, South America is considered definitely a top continent. Usually they have at least 2 or 3 countries that place top 8 at the World Final each year. So, I mean, there's a lot of premium quality players there, and it was a great opportunity to test out some things. I think it worked really well. Maybe with a little better luck, and, maybe it's a little better finishing here and there, I would have found myself even higher than where I was sitting at the end of the day.
For the people that might not know that much about FIFA, or even for the players that aren't professional at it, how do you go about preparing for a tournament?
When it comes to FIFA on the PC, you can't just get online and play like ESO. You can't just go to like quick ranked match or something, because there's a lot of patches and third-party programs that have to like monitor your games to make sure no rules are broken and the speed of the game is quicker than the normal speed. And there's like a lot of rules. I could break it down for you, but basically you have to go on IRC and arrange a lot of games through ESL. So normally for an American to reach a top flight level, you have to play during the afternoon against Europeans as much as possible.
And that's your best way to prepare, is to actually get on, because they're obviously going to be 7 hours or so ahead of us, depending on where you live in the U.S. And how receptive are the European players to, I guess they know you, so it's a lot easier. But what if somebody's not Michael Labelle? How do they kind of get to where they can get someone's attention?
Well, I would definitely say they're not receptive. Until you've made a little bit of a name, or I guess I've met a lot of the guys, so I mean, it's not a big problem for me to arrange games, but just to arrange with random Europeans that are like new each year or whatever, not like returning players, sometimes it can be a pain because they don't want to risk a game of delay or a game of lag or anything like that, even though it only takes 5 minutes to set up a match, so I would say that's difficult for an American to really make a move right into the scene, unless you're playing against South Americans because they're closer on time and you get a decent connection, or you're training with other Americans.
How do you go about deciding what formations to use and what team or players to use?
Well, over the past, I guess, 3 or 4 years that I've been doing the PC FIFA thing, a lot of things change minor each year. Maybe some new bugs, maybe some new glitches, maybe some new, new gameplay, new maneuvers. But usually each year you're looking for a team that's quick, a team with size, the normal things you'd look for just when you checked out any of the rosters. For formations, it has to do with your independent or your individual style of play, I guess. Are you going to play a lot of over-the-top balls? Are you looking to run? Are you looking to do a lot of crossing? Whatever floats your boat, maybe, kind of whatever works for you. Definitely making a decision based on the style of play that you use is the best for any new coming player or returner or whatever. If you want to play a game competitively, you have to make sure that you take any advantage that works for you.
Well, not to bring the subject matter to something away from gaming, but did you get to do anything outside of gaming in Brazil? Were you able to go out anywhere, any restaurants, anything like that?
Well, I definitely went to the club on Friday because they had a players party Friday, the day we got there, which is kind of strange. But if someone throws free drinks at you and says, "Come on down to the club," I mean, pretty much everyone went for sure. And then on Saturday, we also went to the club, but I went with the Brazilians because I'm good friends with a lot of the console FIFA guys who are having their national final. So I just went with them so I could get, someone speaking Portuguese for me, help me out a little bit. It was a nice time.
If you don't mind me asking, what's your drink of choice?
Well, they had this strange drink there that was really sugary. It was like a lot of vodka and then just straight up sugar, lime and stuff. I forgot what it was called, but I really hated it. I like a lot of times whiskey sometimes or just vodka shots. The first night, we mixed a few things. We did a lot of beer and tequila, actually, the first night, which is always nice. And then Saturday, I played it cool because I had to play early in the morning for my matches, so I really didn't want to drink. But I had Brazilians with me to speak Portuguese, so I was like, I can go without drinking. I just, bought a beer and walked with it all night, So I looked like I was drunk so I could, talk to a lot of the girls.
Let me ask this question. This drink did you have? Did they have lime in it? It's kind of clear.
Yeah, but it's not like, I don't know if it's something you're getting in the U.S., to be honest, but it might be. It had a name in Portuguese, but I can't get it off the top of my head.
How about caipirinha? Does that sound right?
Jerry's on the ball tonight.
I have no idea. When it comes to alcohol, I know a thing or two once in a while, so. Yeah, I had a good friend of mine when I was in graduate school from Brazil, so we used to do, carnival parties up here on campus, and sort of Brazil's national cocktail is this drink called caipirinha. I think it's sugar, lime, like you said. It's got vodka, but it's also got this Brazilian alcoholic beverage. I think caha or something like that. It's CACHACA or something like that. I know I'm going to pronounce it wrong because I'm not Portuguese, but yeah, it's good stuff. It has its effects. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, after one of them, I was not a big fan. It was too much sugar for me, to be honest, but it's definitely nice to try out something different.
Speaking of things that are different, we had VV Smokey Prague in Brazil as well, and I heard he finished second, losing out to Chao Menudo, who is the WCG champion from last year. By any chance, Mike, did you get the chance to catch any of his matches?
Yeah, actually, I got to watch his entire matchup against Shift and against Shalom Mamu, whatever, the top Brazilian player, and I was able to videotape both of them in HD, and I'm just looking to probably do a little editing and throw it on YouTube or something so everybody can get a view. It's quality stuff.
Very nice. Really glad to hear that. Can't wait to see the footage. Was there anything else that you could possibly tell us about how Smokey was performing? Any songs that he did really well on? Any sort of details that you can give us on his actual performance while he was there?
Well, like you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned that the Brazilian's never been beat in person in a best of three, and he definitely was beat by Smokey Prague in the final. Unfortunately, Smokey was coming from the lower bracket, so he had to beat him a total of 4 times, where the Brazilian only had to beat Smokey Prague twice. But he took an entire set off him, which is definitely pretty impressive. And to be honest, Smokey Prague's kind of a celebrity in Brazil. He's sort of a big deal. He's getting interviews on the stage. Everybody's following him. I think the Guitar Hero scene over there in Brazil is really large. They showed up for all the matches, packed out.
It's pretty crazy how that works. I actually got to talk to him quite a bit when he was in China last year for WCG, and he said that he had quite a following over there, and quite a few fangirls were asking for his autograph, things like that. It's pretty crazy since I've known the guy for a while, and, he's got so many goofy YouTube videos, but apparently that's what does it for the people over in Brazil and China. So hey. But thank you for the information on Smokey Frog, and glad to hear that he did well as well. So congratulations to the both of you.
So what's next for Michael LaBelle? Tell us your schedule for what you have next. I assume it's the Nationals in Los Angeles for the World Cyber Games, correct?
Yeah, my next event will be in LA September 10th through the 12th, where I'm hoping that I can come home with a W, first place this year. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I've got a lot of confidence since this event because the top 3 finish internationally is pretty impressive going into the national final, but you never know, everybody matches up different. So maybe my stuff worked great against certain players and not so good against other ones, maybe there's some luck this way, or maybe I don't take my opportunities, but we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it.
I actually think this is going to be your year because, as far as I know, I do believe it's going to be live streamed this year. I think DJ Wheat is going to come out there to do the U.S. Nationals, if I heard that right. So a lot of people may get a chance to observe you play that have never watched you. And if that's the case, I can guarantee you that everybody in VV is going to be watching you. So I want to wish you good luck if we don't have you back on the show between now and Nationals. I know you've got school, soccer, and 10 other things. So I just want to thank you for being on the show again, Michael.
No problem. It's always nice to sit down and talk with y'all for a little bit.
Rapture, before you go, do you want to give us a Smash wrap-up for what happened at Raleigh?
All right, sure. Just off top, man. But MLG Raleigh was, not the biggest turnout, unfortunately. VVV Mewtwo King won singles, and Lee Martin, who's also in VVV, got second place. Mewtwo King also took first in doubles. Overall, I wouldn't say it was the most surprising event. We did have a few disqualifications, actually, which was the main talk of the event, including Ally, Atomisk, Ninjalink, a few people getting disqualified because they didn't show up on time for their matches. And the biggest ones were involving Cheese and his Ice Climbers, and Will, who, DI podcast member, he's going to talk about that on the episode too, by the way, and Nick Riddle, the Zero Suit Samus main from Florida. And the rules came about in which they paused, they ended up losing their games, and that just killed their sets. Cheese ended up winning, following the rules, obviously, but that's what happened. That was a big talk of the event. And overall, it wasn't, hugely amazing. I mean, North Carolina doesn't have the biggest Smash scene. I'm sure DC would be, much better in terms of turnout. So I'm looking forward to a good event, but overall, it was all right. It was meh.
Well, I heard a lot of it was, school was starting. People just came back from Apex. They didn't really want to go straight to another event, especially with DC right around the corner again. They need to save up money. Yeah,
this summer was pretty packed. We had SuperCon, which didn't have the best turnout, but still was there. Apex, obviously. 2 MLG events, Columbus and Raleigh in the summer. So there was a lot going on for Smash. And then, of course, we have Pound 5 coming up soon, Cataclysm 5, which was delayed but still coming up. There's a lot going on in Smash for big tournaments, and unfortunately Raleigh sort of came wrong place, wrong time, where, school is starting, obviously, like, literally, a few days after for a lot of people, and just that a lot of people will have to save for a lot of other tournaments. It just comes right down to it, wrong place, wrong time, but overall, it wasn't the worst event. Like I said, meh.
Well, with all of the things going on, a sort of last but not least, Halo 3 was, in my humble opinion, where all the surprises, upsets, we have Europeans, we have players who were not very happy with results, acting in not very happy ways. Justin, talk to us. Tell us about this event.
Well, this is probably the most shocking event in the past 2 years for Halo 3. What happened is everyone expected, Instinct Final Boss in the finals, but more people were leaning towards Instinct at first. At the end of last event, Final Boss came in. They still had a couple of kinks to work out. This event, they came in on fire. They came in only dropping a couple of games. They all were at 110%, and they ended up winning the event with Instinct taking second. A lot of big shockers went on with that. Straight Rippin' comes out first round against Power. They get swept 3-0 instantly. Wasn't even close. On top of that, Purgatory came out strong, 3-0 in Carbon right off the bat on Friday night kickoff on the live stream. Both those teams ended up getting embarrassed by dropping down. Straight Rippin' finished the event 14th. Carbon finished 13th. And it's quite interesting to see Carbon versus Straight Rippin' in consos for that, because you wouldn't expect that. On top of that, Purgatory came out swinging, like I said. They ended up finishing 8th place. I'm really proud for Mimic, who ended up finally bringing home his first check for Halo 3. What also was kind of a shocker was before Raleigh, Ryan Noob, who is also known as a really good noob, and Goofy left the Warriors for Darkest Hour. Everyone thought Darkest Hour was going to place a lot better with those two being on Darkest Hour. However, Legend and Twilight ended up not doing as good as the other two, and they ended up dropping down and only taking 16th. With that being said, with Warriors picking up Robbie B, they actually ended up finishing 5th again, which is shocking, but Robbie B was just tearing it up when they ended up beating Triggers down in a close 3-2 series. His headshots were just incredible. Another shocker was Ambush not placing in the top 8. I was really hoping they had a really strong lineup going in, and they ended up beating Carbon and Straight Rippin' back-to-back in 3-2 series. Unfortunately, they ended up losing to very motivated Warriors, but overall they had a really good event and ended up finishing 10th. But since then, now it's only been a couple of days since the event, but already these team changes are taking place. I believe the Hype ended up dropping Hines. They instantly picked up Toxic from URR Dynasty. On top of that, Reaction just came out today with Power Gaming and said he will be leaving Power Gaming to join up with Baxter again for a new team called Royalty Gaming, and they're still going to be looking for 2 members. Power hasn't responded yet to who they plan on picking up for a 4th, but expect a lot of team changes happening within the next week or 2.
It seemed like this event for Halo 3, like, teams would get up to a 2-0 lead, and it just seemed no team could finish. Not one team finished with a 3-0 except Power Gaming over Straight that I know of on the top of my head. Purgatory over Carbon, that as well. But it seemed like, teams were just coming straight out of the gates, 2-0, and then they end up actually losing the entire match. It was crazy comebacks at Halo 3, and it was awesome to watch.
Yeah, there were crazy comebacks. I have to agree. There were several 3-2 really surprises. I mean, even Ambush had one of the situations, I think, against Straight Rippin', where they were down 2-0, and they happened to come back and win it 3-2.
Well, here's the other thing. This game has been going on for so long, is that these players have developed so much over the past couple of years since MLG first picked it up, is that these top 16 rosters are all pretty much even with each other, except for Final Boss and Instinct. Those two are still above everyone else and will be for the rest of the season. I expect them to place top 2 in the Nationals, but I do expect some surprises at DC and hopefully a new team taking that 8th seed at Dallas.
I'm really glad Final Boss actually won, Fear Itself being one of my favorite players, as well as Ogre 2 coming back onto the top of his game. He actually, I believe he surpassed T-Squared in most wins at MLG.
Yes, history was made at the 50th event. Ogre 2 was able to take that crown, so to speak, from T-Squared, which I think is really awesome.
On top of that, another little side note, because a lot of people have been wondering about some of these old players coming back. Ogre 1 had gone on to Facebook today and posted that he will be interested in playing Reach. He is looking to go to DC with a team, so expect Ogre 1 to come back into the competitive scene soon. Rather or not, there'll be a reunion of him and his brother in the future. That's still, I don't know with Final Boss doing so well, but it could always happen.
Ogre 1's in Australia, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He was originally over there, from what I heard, for his girlfriend, and he was just living life over there and his job and everything. That was what happened when he retired from Halo. But he will continue to live over there, and he does want to come back and play at the same time, so I don't know how that's going to work out for him.
That's a lot.
Probably not very well.
I was going to say, it's a lot of money from Australia to Washington, D.C., but you know what? If he can do it, I mean, a lot of people will be glad to see him.
Also, what a lot of other people were interested in, for those of you who don't know and weren't able to attend, or for those of you who were and didn't know, Final Boss's former teammate, Saiyan, who had won multiple championships and tournaments with Final Boss, was actually in the crowd and got a nice reception when coming back.
Yes, that is because he is from Cary, North Carolina, which is where I'm from, which is awesome, getting to see him again.
Another thing that kind of shocked me in the long run was what influenced a lot of the situations with teams dropping games a lot came down to the coaches. There were a lot of different coach changes. Killen had financial troubles and couldn't attend the event for Final Boss. They ended up picking up another random coach, but for them it didn't matter. Straight Rippin' ended up going with Coach Tom from Classic instead of Lammy. And, I've just been hearing a lot of things that a lot of coaches weren't up to par with what, their teams were hoping for. So expect a lot of coach changes as well. And I'm hoping to give myself a nice team for DC.
And that wraps up our coverage of MLG Raleigh. The only things I'm going to add are there weren't enough seats. We needed more chairs. It would have been nice if they had chairs. And to MLG again, your 50th event. Wise choice on the venue, smaller. It allows it to look more packed. But as far as it really being special, I wouldn't say anything there was really special. But Sundance promises that they will do bigger and better things at DC. For those of you that don't know, the StarCraft 2 stream did really, really well. For those of you who somebody asked me about the HD stream. Some people like it. To me, it's not worth it. It's not true HD. I think it bumps it up to 480 from 320, which is their standard stream. So you're not getting anywhere near full HD. I'm not sure why MLG calls it their HD stream. But, hopefully that's going to improve also. We'll see.
Well, honestly, their regular stream was horrible. This is the first time I've ever actually really sat at home to watch a MLG stream, and their quality was terrible.
Yeah, I heard it was really, it was lagging a lot. But I did talk to a few people who got to watch the HD. Now, there's a couple interesting features, like if you step away when you have the HD feature, there's a DVR function, which allows you to record an hour of instant replay, where you can rewind and watch, which I thought that was pretty cool. And I did get to watch the HD preview, which it did seem a lot clearer and, no lag. It was a lot better than what they had for standard stream.
One advantage that we did have on the stream, though, is we actually had commentary. I heard through the grapevine that for the first day or so, there was no commentary at the venue for the StarCraft matches that were being played. Is that true, Jerry?
Well, I tweeted this a lot. I mean, what it was is it was really, really low. So if you weren't, right in front of the screen, you really couldn't hear anything. And, this is obviously so that players wouldn't have to listen to the stream. And, there's a lot of stuff being said that obviously you don't want players to hear. Eventually for the finals, they turned it up, which was good. But they definitely need to rethink where they're putting the projection screen. And get more than 2 benches, please, and get sound. Major League Gaming has the opportunity here to do some really, really cool things. This is their opportunity to sort of get out there and, really help grow another game. But if it's not spectator friendly, it's going to be really, really complicated. And I said this to people, I think you got a better experience watching it at home. I think that's horrible, to be honest. I mean, you don't want people who are paying money to attend your event to have a worse experience. And, even in another sort of like DJ Wheat brilliant moment, he tweeted that, hey, look at how I'm watching StarCraft 2, from his home, and it looked pretty comfortable. And I thought to myself, the sad truth of all this is that we're not in that kind of comfort here at the event. If I go to a major sporting event, I expect, to sit down and enjoy it. And, to be honest, this event actually I thought was a lot better than a typical MLG event. I love the food. Raleigh's a fantastic town. There was great sushi, great barbecue, great Cajun food. The food in the venue was a minor step up from other venues. If MLG's smart, Orlando, Raleigh, Meadowlands, Dallas, Columbus, there's your stops, and just stick to that. But we'll see.
Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of my last episode. Oh my gosh. But as always, I want to leave it, with a bang. We always got to thank VVV sponsors, SteelSeries, Control Freak, MusicSkins.com, and Custom Ink. Thanks to the VVV community. I hope you guys all leave your feedback and support for this show as well as all our other ones, because we all love that. It makes us feel good and stuff. Be sure to stop over at vvvgaming.podbean.com. That's vvvgaming.podbean.com to follow all of our shows. And you can email this show at thelosersbracket@vvvgaming.com or follow us on the Twitter page where we are known as, or they are at this point, Losers Bracket. So that's the end of episode 32.
Aww, it's the end of an era. The Rapture era is over.
Shut up, Perilous.
Rapture, you're going to be missed. We wish you a lot of luck on your new show. We will fondly invite you back here. And thank you for creating a show, which I hope is very successful. Adds a lot of value to VV Gaming and the Brawl community. I encourage everybody to listen when they get a chance to Directional Influence, which I think is going to be a great podcast.
Good DI, good DI.
Good DI.
So, thank you and good night.